Looks like this thing is working. Greetings, friends. Gemini Brett here. I'm going to hit record on this. And actually, I'm going to show you a little video I've been working on that doesn't have to do with this particular topic at hand, but it's a 4-minute thing that I think will be a wonderful way for us to begin. So probably spend some time with Jupiter, astronomy, astrology, and intentions, and then some history of the last time Jupiter was brightest, which was in 1963. I don't know. I'd love to say this will be 44 minutes long, but knowing me, it'll probably go a little bit longer than that. So if you got the time, relax. If you can't enjoy all of this live, then come back to my YouTube page later and you will find it there. All right, so let's hear some sounds and see some sights of Earth and Venus dancing about the light. Splendid. Well, it is Venus's hour on Mars's day. So watching Venus and Earth dance about the sun feels like a decent way to get into this jam about Jupiter, the brightest Jupiter in your lifetime, friends. Well, not if you've been around since 1963 or before, because Jupiter was even brighter that year, but will not be as bright as he is now in our skies for another 170 years. Why? Well, let's tune into some of the sacred astronomy of that thing. I want to just say before we do a few things that animation you just saw has been my life for the last couple of days in between consultations. Let me bring you to an internet page or two. So first of all, the music that you just heard there was by the great Eric Deutsch, a dear friend of mine. That was a song of his, an original composition called Moon Man. And a particular recording that actually was recorded back in 2000. I created this record. I mean, his music, I was just kind of lazily false producing in the booth. A record called The Baby Sessions for my eldest niece, Whitney, to be born to at home. I've listened to that going to sleep many times. It's wonderful to hear again. If you'd like to hear some of the music that Eric and I have been creating together, I guess this time I'm playing a little bit more of a part because I'm creating musical harmony expressions of astrology charts. And we've been doing this for natal charts. We've done more than 300 now. And we've also been creating these moon songs. So 13 new moons in this year of 2022. And if you head to my website, it's actually a hidden page at my website. It's geminibrett.com/2022 moon songs. You will find this and click it and you will be redirected to Eric Deutsch's Bandcamp page where you can listen to all of these songs. Or if you pay, I think it's $7 or more, you can also download them, and you will also be able to download my, I don't know, like 90 pages of astrology notes for the moons of this year. So head over there and enjoy if you'd like. If you are interested, so here at Astrology Sessions on my page, you can order a Song of the Soul for your birth chart or as a gift for someone else. I think this is going to keep going. I'm not sure. Eric just joined the Black Crows. So congratulations to him. He's touring in Europe right now. It's a big deal. I'm so stoked for him. He had just joined the Chicks, once the Dixie Chicks, right before all the lockdowns and craziness. And like he played one gig with them and then everything got locked down. And so he's been waiting for the next gig. And I think the Black Crows is a really, really wonderful band for Eric to be playing with. Yeah, so check Eric out. You can find out about Song of the Soul there and book astrological consultation with me. Otherwise, you can also find at my page at geminibrett.com some courses. Now, I should have events here, okay? And I guess I do, but I just have a hard time updating the WordPress thing. I'm embarrassed to say that, but it's true. So let me just tell you about an event that's coming up. That Venus animation that you just watched is something that I have been working on for this webinar, which will be October 2nd, for the Venus star at Cosmic Intelligence Agency, hosted by the control agent, Yulia Simas, and with the great Ariel Gutman, who wrote the book Venus Star Point, and Adam Gainsberg, who has an incredible Venus book, The Light of Venus. Kelly Hunter, whose work I'm really excited to explore. Kelly's going to be speaking about Venus and Haumea. And I'm going to be riding on a vehicle of the coming first in our lifetime Venus-Sun conjunction in the sign of Libra, in its perfect biquintile with Neptune and Pisces to, I don't know, inspire some transmission of sacred geometry and harmony. So, I hope you will join us. You can find all about this at cosmicintelligenceagency.com. If you live in Australia or close by, check out the Magic of the Cosmos retreat. Last time I talked to Yulia, I knew they had 2 spots left. But this is a thing that's happening online, and we'll take as many is want to arrive, and I hope that will be you. So please check us out. So it'll be Sunday, October 2nd. I mean, I guess as long as I'm at it, I will show you OPA astrology events. I think I can go to their org and then to the events page. I was a member of their Tucson event, first in-person gathering I've been able to attend in a long time, which was wonderful. And all of the presentations that were given there are going to be given online and weekend after next, so October 8th and 9th, and I'm going to be sharing some storytelling about Mercury cycles. So a lot of synodic cycles right now. This Venus star thing that you saw here is something I will be narrating and talking about how that works astronomically, and why there are times when Venus is particularly bright and other times not visible at all. Right now, it's about Jupiter. So let's head first to the solar system scope and explore this thing a little bit. I want to change some of the settings here. Solarsystemscope.com is a place where you can play with this wonderful heliocentric or sun-centered model of the solar system. And it is set for right now, and in California time, 4:39 p.m., September 27th, 2022. It was yesterday when Jupiter was brightest in our skies since the year of 1963. Why? And I hope you're able to see this beautiful being that in India they call Guru. I was able to see Jupiter just after sunset yesterday. So one of the reasons, as we will see, Jupiter is particularly bright in Earth's sky right now is that Earth is passing Jupiter by. And this happens, the way we see this in our sky or in our zodiac is Sun is opposite Jupiter. Happens every 399 days on average, okay? And so with Earth passing Jupiter by, we're closest to Jupiter in space. Closer Jupiter, bigger Jupiter, like actually much bigger than when Jupiter is furthest away. And it's particularly close, particularly bright in this cycle. But anyway, with Sun opposite Jupiter, that means that Jupiter is rising at sunset. So sunset yesterday, I was out watching these beautiful colors and then looked east, and wow, Jupiter was just like beaming, just like rays coming off of Jupiter. And I've only really witnessed that with Venus in the sky before, where, I mean, it just looks like, you know, a star that we draw in school or something like that, or like kind of a Star of Bethlehem paintings or something, you know. Jupiter just had these rays, and then the fog came here in the bay, and so no more Jupiter for me until I intentionally slept in the guest room last night, because there is a window south, and indeed the dog woke me up just in time, which was, I don't know, 1:30 a.m. or something, and there was Jupiter just beaming, just like right above my head through this window. And I considered grabbing the camera and running out, but the clouds were kind of in and out, so I just like watched and witnessed Jupiter. And then I was contemplating 1963, which was the last time Jupiter was so incredibly bright like this in Earth's skies. And I went and found the date, and it was in October of '63, and you may know of a pretty significant event in this country and maybe worldwide. That was a month later, which was the assassination of John F. Kennedy. And so then I was on this whole other trip and exploring this alignment in Kennedy's chart, and then some of the things that were going on in his relationship, and you'll see why, and also with his family. And for those of you who are in the know, I mean, it was a pretty dynamic time in general. So we're going to play with some of that today. I just want to first show you this astronomy of why Jupiter is so incredibly bright right now. So let me get this solar system scope back up on the screen. This is how it looked in the chart, by the way. So this is Sun, right, in Libra, having recently ingressed Libra. It was this amazing thing at that particular equinox with retrograde Mercury conjoined the Sun, and then the Libra new moon just after. At this time, as you can see, Mercury is still retrograde. It's indicated by red font here in AstroGold astrology software. And very close to Venus, like it just passed Venus by, and this trine with Pluto. It's like a powerful chart for many reasons. Their opposition with Neptune, but this chart is cast for the particular moment of Sun opposite Jupiter in Earth's zodiac. Okay, it was 12:33 p.m. here in the Pacific Coast time zone. But I've just cast this for a 0 Aries wheel. So it looks like sunset. That's 12:33 p.m. is obviously not sunset, right? But I just wanted to show more of kind of a global image, which is like the so-called natural zodiac. It is aligned to Earth's spine. Let's just talk about that for a second. The tropical zodiac is the zodiac of Earth. It actually, with the ecliptic, the path of the sun goes through Earth's Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. And the reason why the sun shines directly above the Tropic of Cancer when it ingresses Cancer is because Earth's North Pole is leaning towards the light at that time, right? That's summer solstice in the northern hemisphere. So there is, I just want to say, on this ecliptic plane, which is the plane of our solar system for the most part, it's the plane of the Earth-Sun relationship, there is a point on that plane that is due north of all of the Earth, or especially the center of Earth where we are all connected as Earthlings, yeah? And that point we call 0 degrees tropical Cancer. The Earth's South Pole is always leaning towards 0 degrees tropical Capricorn. So we have north and south, cardinal signs, cardinal directions, which are defined by Gaia's spine, the world tree, the sword of our stone. And if there is a global north and south, there is also a global east and west. And it's true that when the sun ingresses 0 degrees tropical Libra, it's at this place which is due west of the center of the Earth. It's shining right above Earth's equator at equinox time, yeah, but it's like the west of the year. And importantly, I'll just say that the tropical signs are Earth's houses. And the so-called natural zodiac, the 0 Aries wheel, has these astronomical teeth for this reason, that it's directionally aligned, again, defined by this rotational axis that I poetically know as Gaia's spine. So we have long known that planets close to these cardinal points, right? 0 Aries, that's the east, 0 Cancer, the north, 0 Libra, the west, 0 Capricorn, the south, that planets at these points in any given moment are specifically strong. Yeah, so I mean, this is true in a nativity for planets that are close to the angles, right? Like, so the ground beneath your feet, right? If something's rising right now, it's particularly strong. Setting right now, particularly strong. Culminating at the midheaven, or rooting down below the Earth at the IC, the Imam Cheli, the bottom of the heavens. These are like strong places in any given moment. And moments are an experience, at least, you know, for us Earthlings on the surface of Earth, yeah. But there's also this kind of global moment at the center of Earth where, again, we are all one. And there's no ascendant at the center of Earth because, you know, there's no surface. Nothing's like rising because it's not spinning beneath anything in a sense. And yet there's also this global ascendant, which is 0 degrees tropical Aries. So for the sun to be opposing Aries so close to these cardinal points, I mean, just after equinox, just after this, you know, equinox, new moon, this retrograde Mercury can join the sun literally on equinox day, with Venus like pretty close by, right? Like there's a lot of energy gathered in this east and west, which in a sense works like a global ascendant and descendant. Okay, so we're going to see more energy at the 0 Aries point in the years to come. We will have Saturn and Neptune conjoin here, right? So by the time Neptune gets to Aries, he's been in Pisces for many years now. Saturn's going to catch up and they'll conjoin right at the first degrees, like much closer than where Jupiter was. But Jupiter's close enough and currently retrograde, okay? And will be heading back into Pisces, home to Pisces for some unfinished business, or it's like, oh, I forgot something at home before I go out on this great adventure. So Jupiter's heading back to Pisces to get whatever that is. And then we'll head back into Aries and kind of speed along into Taurus soon. So let's look at the chart. So this is like brightest Jupiter, why the sun is opposite Jupiter. There's another reason for that we will explore. And actually, let's get out into the kind of heliocentric point of view. Maybe I'll make these times match. So September 26th at 12 something p.m. Looks like this. I think it was around here. So what's happening at that time? And notice, as I said before, like this is when Earth is closest to Jupiter, right? And this happens, of course, as we are orbiting the sun. Jupiter is orbiting the sun. And let me zoom out just one little bit. It happens every 399 days. So I'm going to go back in time. I'm actually going to position this way. So those of you who are really familiar with the idea of the natural zodiac or the zero Aries wheel, which really is, it's an astronomical device. Zero Aries will be towards our left on this screen. Okay, so this is the sun, Mercury, Venus, all in this kind of Virgo Libra zone. You can see the moon is there at the same time, right? That's just this chart that we're looking at here. We just know the center of a geocentric chart wheel is the center of geo, and that's the Earth, okay? The place where we all connect. All right, so we have this kind of set up in this fashion, right? Whereas Earth here, and you see how Saturn's like up and to the left. There you go, Saturn. All right, but we want to focus in on Jupiter. Maybe I will zoom in at first for this thing. And I'm going to pull Earth back in time, right? So all of the planets, they orbit from the west to the east. So if we're looking down on the sun from like the sun's north pole-ish, if you will, this is kind of the north pole of Earth, not exactly because Earth is tilted north and south, right? It's like 23.5 degrees down towards the bottom of the screen. But either way, we're like above the north of Earth. That's kind of the astronomical convention to witness the orbits in our solar system. And when we're looking down from the north, all of those orbits are, let me just play this in time, they are clockwise. And of course, each according to their own pace. Closer to the center of the track, and that's Mercury, the faster you go. Mercury gets around the sun in 88 Earth days, which is 1/2 of a Mercury day, interestingly. Okay, Venus gets around the sun in 225 Earth days. Mars in about 2 years. Jupiter, 11.86 years. Okay, so I'm going to stop time. I want to go backwards. I want to make sure I can see the date. Suddenly we're in 2023. And actually, let's just go forward. Notice that here we will find the next time that Earth is passing Jupiter by. Maybe it's somewhere there, right? In November of 2023. It's about 399 days on average between consecutive Sun-Jupiter oppositions. So know that when we're looking at a geocentric zodiac, and we almost always are in astrology, we can cast heliocentric zodiac charts, right? Like, I could turn this thing into a heliocentric chart here in this brilliant Astro Gold software, actually. Let's choose that. And we'll see from the sun's point of view, right now the sun is at the center. This same moment looks like an Earth, that's the Earth glyph, the cross of matter inside the circle of spirit. It looks like a Earth-Jupiter conjunction, right? Like looking from the sun, Earth conjoined Jupiter, right? But from Earth's point of view, and that's geocentric, and that means the Earth glyph is going to go away because Earth will be here, the cross of matter inside the circle of spirit, and now the sun shows up on the wheel, right? And this, from Earth's point of view, is sun opposite Jupiter. I always speak the name of the faster moving planet first because it's the one that like activates the cycle, and the sun gets around the Earth in a year. From our point of view, why? Because the Earth orbits the sun in a year, right? 365 days and change. And Jupiter gets around in 11.86 years, like 12 years. So obviously the sun is much faster in Earth's experience through our zodiac, okay? So let's rewind to, now. This is here, right? This is this very close Jupiter, closest we will find. But, why is this one closer than the one that will be in 399 days in November of 2023 or 399 days ago? I'm rewinding time here. So here's the last time Earth was between the sun and Jupiter, right? So from our point of view, sun opposite Jupiter, this is like August of 2021. Let's go back to the one before. Jupiter's now off the screen. And that would be especially telling if the screen was square. It's not, but it is very important to know that orbits are not circular. Venus's orbit is incredibly harmonically almost circular. Venus herself, incredibly almost perfectly spherical, which is not the truth for Earth, you may know, and certainly not for Mars or Mercury. But Venus's harmony is some of the things I'll be speaking about at the talk next weekend. Jupiter's orbital path is more circular than many. Once we get out here and look at the so-called dwarf planets, like Pluto, for example, Pluto has an incredibly elliptical orbit. We get close in and you'll see the same is true for our messenger. Look at how much closer a portion of Mercury's path is to the sun than the other side. So where a planet is closest to the sun in its own path is called the aphelion. Sorry, wrong. The perihelion, close to the light, close to Helios, close to the sun. Okay. And the other point, like where a planet is furthest from the sun, is called the aphelion. So furthest from Helios. Okay. There is also, and let's stick with Mercury for now, as Mercury is passing Earth by, and this is the middle of the Mercury retrograde, right? So this is happening now too, Mercury retrograde. Actually, well, this is one from 2020, but that's fine. Notice how the middle of Mercury's passing of the Earth is, of course, going to bring Mercury closest by, right? It's like one of the chariots passing the other on the racetrack, yeah? And so this is called perigee, all right? There is also, and let's stick with Mercury for now, apogee, right? So that's when Mercury is furthest from the Earth. And in the Mercury cycle, that's direct Mercury conjunct Sun, where the retrograde Mercury conjunct Sun in Earth's view or Earth's zodiac, that is Mercury at perigee, closest to Earth, okay? And those events will happen, perigee and apogee, like regardless of perihelion and aphelion, okay? However, these things all come together. So let me go to now again. We have Mercury retrograde, that's Mercury passing Earth by. Venus is doing the opposite thing right now. Venus is going under the beams of the sun and disappearing as she is moving towards apogee, right? So furthest from Earth. Okay, so regardless of where she is in her own kind of distance from the sun, aphelion far from sun or perihelion close to sun, Venus is on her way to reach apogee, which is this October 22nd. Direct Venus conjunct sun, right? We won't see it. She's way back behind, but we have these wonderful models, computer softwares, charts, ephemerides that will let us know that actually, again, this is the first Venus-Sun conjunction in the sign of Libra in our lifetimes. It's been since the 18th century. And that same, what we call Venus star point, has been in the sign of Scorpio for many, many, many moons, for like 104 years. So for it to now be retrograding back to Libra is a big deal. So yeah, I hope you'll join us in that Cosmic Intelligence Agency Venus panel coming up. We're reveal some of the mysteries. We've been looking forward to this for a long time, and there's more to come in that regard. Okay, so let's tune into Jupiter, and I'll just say, let's talk about G first, okay? So Earth, let's go back to now. Thank you, Solar System Scope, for making this easy to show. Of course, when chariot Earth, faster than Jupiter, closest to the center of the track, which is the sun in the heliocentric model, right? When Earth is passing Jupiter by, we are closest to Jupiter in space. So that's Jupiter at perigee. Simultaneously, that's Earth at para Jove. Okay, Jove, right, is Jupiter. So para Jove for Earth, perigee for Jupiter, yeah? And then that's when Jupiter is in the middle of his retrograde cycle. Consider this, like, let me rewind a little bit. When you pass a car on the highway, it's moving forward, but it appears to move backwards in your experience, right? That's why the outer planets, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and those we can't see with our naked eye beyond, that's why they appear to move retrograde. For Jupiter, it's like 4 months of retrogradation, and the Sun-Jupiter cycle, which itself is 399 days on average. I'm going to retrograde and go back to this time when Sun and Jupiter were aligned in Earth sky. Looks like maybe there-ish. We could push the AstroGold astrology software buttons and very easily find the exact date, but I'm not going to trip on that right now. Just want you to see that many of us begin these 399-day Sun-Jupiter cycles in Earth's zodiac at this time, when though this is clearly not a visible Jupiter, he's under the beams, he's behind the sun, it is that Sun-Jupiter conjunction, right? So we often model these on like the moon cycle, right? And we know moon between Earth and sun, new moon. Many of us work with that. It's like the beginning, the seed of the cycle. Well, only Mercury, Venus, and moon can come between Earth and sun, right? So for the outer planets like Jupiter, it's a Sun-Jupiter conjunction. It's like Jupiter back behind the sun. And there's a lot of different models about where you would begin the cycle, whatever. That's one point. If you've got software like this and tables, certainly not going to work with your eyeballs, okay? So at this time of the Sun-Jupiter conjunction, there's just no way for Earth to see Jupiter at all. I mean, there's no telescope on our planet. You got to send the probes, okay? And maybe we could say that's when the cycle begins. There is going to be a time not too long after then. Jupiter tends to disappear under the beams of the sun for 40 days and 40 nights. So about 20 days after this time, there's a little bit more. Jupiter is now, or the sun has separated from Jupiter by far enough in our zodiac that Earth is going to spin and see Jupiter rise before sunrise. So Jupiter is now a morning star. That's like a Jupiter, what we call a heliacal rise. When the sun has passed Jupiter by, he was an evening star. The sun chased him down, took him under the beams, and then passed Jupiter by. And now Jupiter's rising before the sun. That's heliacal rise, kind of the rebirthing of Jupiter. So some will work with that kind of visible experience to begin the cycle. Tricky thing is, it's like, it's not going to work as well like mathematically and help you tune into like the kind of average periods of the cycles and other things that we love to do as we're kind of exploring astronomical truth. And these days we have these wonderful tools, these tables and these softwares. We've been creating ephemerides, tables that would say when sun is conjunct Jupiter since at least the Babylonian times, and we've gotten pretty good at it. At least or so we think, and I have a lot of faith in the astronomers and gratitude for them too. Okay, so let me zoom out a little bit. So here we are, Jupiter's a morning star, and then we get to this place where Jupiter, as Earth is preparing to pass Jupiter by, or kind of starting to pass Jupiter by, Jupiter appears to stop and then move retrograde. At that time in Earth's zodiac, the sun is trine Jupiter, just about. And then this is the middle of Jupiter's 4-month-ish retrograde period. So Jupiter is closest to Earth. Okay, so why is this one particularly close? Because orbits are not circular, they are elliptical, right? So para-G, closest to Earth, or for Earth, para-Jove, closest to Jupiter. That's always going to happen as Earth is passing Jupiter by. And that happens again on average every 399 days. And that's going to be when Earth is closest to Jupiter. It's not always the exact Sun-Jupiter opposition, which I'm hoping you can now see as, oh, that means Earth is passing Jupiter. It's the middle of Jupiter's 4-month retrograde. Sun is opposite Jupiter in Earth's zodiac, in Earth's sky. And by the way, that means Jupiter's going to rise at sunset. Jupiter's going to reach at middle of the night. When the sun is at the roots, at the IC, Jupiter is going to set at sunrise. It works in that way, like experientially, like a full moon. And so every 399 days, Earth is passing Jupiter by. Our experience in the Earth zodiac is sun opposite Jupiter. Jupiter, at this time, my friend Adam Gainsbourg calls this midnight star, which I love because Jupiter is just culminating and on high in the middle of the night, okay? So why is this particularly close? Well, let's ask Astro Gold. We can get into, where are these? Nodes and apsides. So Jupiter at this time is 4.9549 from the sun. What are the units? And the answer, by the way, is AU, which is the average distance between Earth and the sun. The average distance between Earth and the sun is about 93 million miles. Sorry that I cannot remember what that is in kilometers for you who speak that metric system, but I'll tell you that Earth's average distance from the sun is 93 million miles. Now we are closest to, and it'd be cool if they added Earth here. I'm gonna give them a call about that one. We are closest to the sun in early January. Earth's distance from the sun changes by about 1.5 million miles. This is sacred astronomy for astrologer stuff. If you dig it, take the whole class. It's a long and beautiful course. Let's go to NASA's planetary fact sheet. So we're looking, see, here's these words, perihelion, right? Where it's closest to the sun, aphelion, furthest from the sun. And here you go, in kilometers, Earth's average distance from the sun is about 149.6 kilometers. Actually, that's 149 million kilometers. And our closest at perihelion, this is early January, is 147.1. And our furthest, this happens in early July, about 152. I am going to go to miles here. So here's this 93 million miles from the sun. That's the average distance of Earth from the sun. And in early January, it's about 1.5 million miles less. We're closest to the sun then. And in early July, about 1.5 million miles more than the average away, right? So this is a matter of Earth's elliptical orbit, which you can see here in orbital eccentricity. Okay, if that number was 0, like check out Venus, 0.007. It's like almost 0. That means that the orbit is like perfectly circular if it was 0, right? So Venus, queen of harmony, like the closest to a perfect circle. And hopefully like you would see that that means that Venus is perihelion, so closest to the sun, and aphelion are very close in numbers, right? So her closest to the sun's 66.8 million miles, furthest 67.7. Like she's only varying about 500,000 miles from the average near and far, right? For Earth, 1.5 million miles. Okay. So for Jupiter, Jupiter's average distance from the sun 483.7, okay, million miles. So a lot further from the sun than Earth. I mean, let's just play that game. What is 483.7 million divided by, where'd that go? Divided by 93 million. And the answer is 5.2. So on average, Jupiter is about 5 times further away from the sun than Earth, okay? And you can see, so Jupiter's average is 583. Well, he gets like 23.5 million miles closer when at perihelion, when closest to the sun. And Jupiter will be moving faster at that time for that reason. And then adding 23.5 million miles if at aphelion, furthest from the sun. And there's like Jupiter at the slowest, okay? Now, our experience in Earth sky, like an Earth chart of Jupiter's speed, it has a lot more to do with like the present relationship of Earth and Jupiter in our orbital dynamics, right? Like literally when Earth is passing Jupiter by, regardless of how close or far Jupiter is from the sun, Jupiter appears to be moving backwards, right? And so that's not only slow, that's like fast in the opposite direction, right? So our experience of the planetary motion, it's not just about where they are in their orbit with the sun. It's much more about the relationship of the sun and that planet in Earth sky. These are called synodic cycles. Synod means meeting. So many of us begin them again with the meeting of the sun and that planet in our sky. And that will determine like earthly experience, but the perihelion, aphelion adds to this, okay? So when we go over here again, and Astro Gold's letting me see that Jupiter is currently 4.95 AU from the sun. Well, that's close Jupiter. And how do I know? Because we just played with this calculation to learn that on average, Jupiter is 5.2 times further from the sun than Earth is. Okay, so obviously 4.95 is less than 5.2. You're like, whatever, like it's pretty much 5. Yeah, but in space, and when we're talking about millions of miles, like that's a big deal, right? If I multiply this thing by 93, it's 484 million miles, all right? If I multiply 4.95 by 93 million miles, 460 million miles, like it's a significant difference. And Astro Gold did recently respond to an email I sent and made it so that I can push this thing and I can find out, is this close Jupiter or far Jupiter? Like they were telling me this at first and it was like, okay, like, so what does that mean if Jupiter's 4.95 AU? Like if I don't know that he averages 5.2, like what's that going to do for me? So they have recently added this in Astro Gold. It's brilliant astrology software for Mac, by the way. And I'll just whisper to you a little code if you're interested. If you have Macintosh and you're looking for astrology software, I really highly recommend the software. You can use the code Gemini Brett 12 and get 10% off. Gemini, the G is capitalized, the B is capitalized. My Brett has 2 T's, twin T's, like any good Gemini word. And the numbers 1, 2 for 12. So all one word, capital G, capital B, Gemini Brett 12, okay? Get you 10% off for Astro Gold software if you're interested in it. I love it, and it's consistently growing. And I really am also very grateful to be in their ear and ask for little things like this to show up in our software. Okay, so next perihelion we're reading for Jupiter's January 18th, 2023. Okay. Status near and approaching. Okay, well, I'm going to go back just a couple days from there. Here, let me just change this to like 23rd. And we'll bring up that same sheet. And now I think we will see nearest perihelion still saying January 18th, 2023. Yeah, I'm wondering when Jupiter reached perihelion. Let me go back like a month. They're still talking about January 18th, 2023. I'm not so sure. Oh yeah, you know why that is? It's because Jupiter's now retrograde. Okay, let me get back to the chart here. Oh, that's 63. Here's now. Jupiter, we can also see on this sheet, has his perihelion in Earth's zodiac at 1727 Aries. Okay, so this is why Jupiter is particularly bright. It's also why Jupiter was even brighter in 1963 at the Sun-Jupiter opposition then, because that thing, let's look at where the perihelion was in that day, 1334 Aries. Okay, and here Jupiter was at 14.5 Aries when the Sun opposed Jupiter. Sun opposite Jupiter means what? It means Earth is passing Jupiter by, but this is when Jupiter was literally at the closest point in the zodiac. Let's look at that list again, and especially because Jupiter's retrograde, I think we will see at that time that nearest perihelion, September 26, 63, interestingly, is so close to that date. I'm interested in that because, of course, it's September 27th, 2022, when we have this next brightest Jupiter. So it was back then when, because Jupiter was at his closest point in his orbit in respect to the Sun. Let's go back then. I'm going to make this part tricky in solar system scope, but I don't have an email address for them, so or you're on your own, friends. Here we go. Let's go to October 8th, 63. This is when not only is Earth passing Jupiter by, which of course we know because we find in the geocentric Earth-centered chart, Sun opposite Jupiter, right? So there's Sun opposite Jupiter, it's a little more like that. But Jupiter also in his elliptical orbit is at that particular point, I mean, almost exactly at the place where Jupiter is closest to the Sun. That's perihelion, right? So when perigee, that's Earth passing Jupiter, or Sun opposite Jupiter in Earth's zodiac, and Jupiter perihelion happen at the same time, that's the closest Jupiter. Now, it's not Earth furthest from the Sun, like that would be the other part of the equation. So we want Earth at aphelion, right? Furthest from Sun. And if you remember, I said that happens in July. Earth's aphelion is in the sign of, Capricorn, I guess. But that, like, with those two things can't happen at the same time. Like, this is around fall, right? Northern Hemisphere style. And we're furthest from the Sun in early July, so Northern Hemisphere summer. Like those things are just square to one another. But remember, Earth's separation from our average is only changing by 1.5 million miles. That's this stuff here. Where Jupiter's distancing at perihelion closest to Sun and aphelion furthest from Sun is like 23 million miles from the average. So 23 million miles being a whole lot more than 1.5 million means like Earth's like little kind of minuscule separation from the Sun kind of like matters much less than how close or far Jupiter is in the zodiac. Okay, so a long explanation for why this time means Jupiter will be brightest in the sky. But hopefully you got to also learn a good amount about synodic cycles in the meantime. All right, I want to show you another wonderful astronomy software, which is Stellarium. Stellarium.org, you can see there, it's open source software. Brilliant. I'm going to go back to sunset yesterday. Isabel, what's going on, honey? There. So here, sunset. I'm actually going to look east. at sunset. Let me shut the door. Hey, hon, it's okay. She thinks big Jupiter in Aries means like guard the house. Okay, so I'm looking east at sunset, and this is the time of sun opposite Jupiter, and that means Jupiter is rising at sunset, right? So let's just follow Jupiter through the sky now. What do I do that? Okay. So I want you to see some of the beings that Jupiter is aligned with. Now, it's a confusing truth that constellations and signs are totally different things. Okay, so you're going to see here in Stellarium software, 0 Aries. That's the equinox point. That's where the ecliptic, Earth's orbital path, or from our point of view, the path of the sun, and for the most part, the planets, like there's Jupiter's path. And where the ecliptic and the equator, Earth's rotational plane, okay, Earth's equator projected into space, where they cross, and specifically where the ecliptic crosses the equator from the south to the north, that's the vernal point, or the 0 degrees tropical Aries point, okay? And it's not aligned to the ram. This is the ram all the way over here. That's why I use words like ram for constellations and Aries for signs. The sign of Aries would be this. This is 0 Aries, 15 Aries, 30 Aries in our day and age. It pretty much encloses the entire gigantic constellation of the heavenly fish. And that's why I call them fish, not Pisces, because constellations are totally different things, okay? Jupiter right now is aligned to the terrestrial fish. One of these fishes is pointing up towards the heavens. Although I should say in the southern hemisphere, the opposite is true, like coming down to the ground. But the other fish, like, in a way, is like diving down to the earth. That's like the northern hemisphere point of view. There's a very important story about why these fish are tied together, and I think that's a tale for another time, by Jove. There's a wonderful story about this Pegasus and Perseus and Andromeda, and we could go on, but I would just say there's something really brilliant about Jupiter's connection to, again, that 0 Aries point, Earth's global ascendant, the east point on the ecliptic, and aligned to this head of the fish who's like diving down from the waters of the heavens to the earth, and then aligned, here at the great square of Pegasus, like, and in the night sky, I've been like drawing a line through these 2 bright stars, which are Alpheretz and Algenib of the great squares. It often appears in our skies, this body of the winged horse Pegasus. And I've been drawing a line through those 2 to Jupiter that helps me know where Jupiter is in the zodiac. It was aligned more when he was at like 5 degrees, which is right on that line. But if you know the tales of Pegasus, and of Andromeda and Perseus and his mother Danae. Perseus is a child of Jupiter, actually. Like, there's a lot of information there, written in the stars, as it were. I will just encourage you to get out and see Jupiter, receive his light in the sky. If it's like foggy where you are, or rainy or whatever, it might not be happening right now, but hopefully your skies will clear. If it's foggy and you can drive out of the city a little bit and go see the light of this one that some places call guru, like the great spiritual teachers of the heavens, is one that's about expansion, I highly recommend you go. And let's see where in the zodiac Jupiter is. And I'll just say, like, the middle of the night is when the sky is brightest in general. It's when Jupiter will be highest, will be brightest, because he is in this midnight star phase that happens every 399 days. When the sun opposes Jupiter in our zodiac, that means Jupiter is culminating literally at midnight. I don't mean like clock midnight. I mean halfway in time between sunset and sunrise, the true middle of the night, when we move from cold and dry to cold and wet, and you can feel it in your bones. And there's something beautiful about this fiery sign, Aries, Jupiter on high. And in Mars' sign of Aries with Mars and Gemini. So there's like, I think Mars there's like more opportunity to really hear the message. And I would encourage you always, it's a tricky thing to do. It's like the more astrology we learn, the harder it is to go listen to the sky and not just talk to the sky. Hey, Jupiter, you are all of these things, instead of, hey, what are you? And will you guide me? Right. But I would encourage you to also speak and then listen. I mean, for me, that looks like Jupiter. I'm Brett. It's so good to see you again. I'm here like as a student. I'm here to listen. I understand you might not communicate with me in words or what I perceive as human language, but whether it's in a dream or a sign that shows up even next week, or a smell of ancient memory or whatever, like, please teach me. I offer myself to you. Will you please guide me? Yeah. And that's how I like to speak to the sky, and then just sit and listen. Okay. So here's a chart for when Jupiter was last in this brightest Jupiter thing. And I wonder when it was before then. I'm interested in seeing, 63, this is 59 years ago. And the next time it will happen is, isn't that right? 2022 minus 1963. Yeah, 59. It's a very powerful cycle of Jupiter and Saturn. So you'll notice that Saturn at that time was also in Aquarius, where Saturn is now. People usually teach Saturn is a 30-year thing. Saturn is 29 and a half years. So twice that is 59. People teach Jupiter is, 12 years, and 5/12 is 60. But Jupiter is really 11.86 years, okay? And that's going to show up more in this 59 range. So this is like 4.975 Jupiter orbits since this brightest Jupiter, October 8th, 63, between then and now. And I read that it will be 170 years until we have this next brightest Jupiter again. So if we divide that by 11.86, I think we will find, interesting, 14.33. I think that 170 years, I think that might be off. I think that's a rounding. I have a feeling it should be, well, first of all, it should be some number of Jupiter synodic cycles, which are 399 days on average. So if this is 170 Earth years, let's multiply that by the days in a year, and then divide that by 399, the days in the Sun Jupiter cycle. This 155.6, like, I don't think so. But it doesn't have to be in October that year or whatever. I'm guessing it'll be more like, let's see, if I do 171 divided by 11.86, that's 14.4. Let's see what 15 times 11.86 looks like. Yeah, it's probably more like 178 years from now. So by the way, sorry to bore you with this. This is the kind of thing that happens right here when you're not around. Like, I'm just playing with calculators and trying to figure out these cycles and whatnot. Okay, so I gotta say, David Crook, who I follow on Facebook, is the one who posted an image. I shared it to my own timeline where I first knew about this. It's like, whoa, how had I not even heard about that? I'm supposed to be some astronomy guy. Another place I really love is earthsky.org. And I gotta say, like, I'm not keeping up with many things right now, but you will see. Oh, it's closest in 70 years. All right, so when I said like the brightest in your lifetime, for some of you, that might not be true. And you'll get to hold this torch and explain why it is in 70 years. And so here's a whole bit about what we just went through with perihelions and the lot, yeah? So this is telling, and this was cool. That's what Astro Gold showed, that Jupiter will be at perihelion on January 21st, 2023. We can just basically know that will be after Jupiter goes direct and gets into those degrees of Aries where his orbit is closest to Earth. I'm wondering if they're sharing this time 70 years from now, when Jupiter is next brightest. Anyway, good amount of Jupiter stuff. Deborah Bird's also awesome. I really highly recommend signing up for earthsky.org. Stoked to hear about that. And look, they have a link to Stellarium, time and date. Old Farmer's Almanac. That's a good place. All right, anyway, let me not forget you're here and just get lost. I was interested in this when I was looking last night, in the middle of the night, and I'd been contemplating Brightest Jupiter. I was really fortunate before the fog came in to like make eyes and to say a prayer or two. Kind of in Aries fashion, I was like, all right, I'm like going out on my own. I'm going to go in this other room in the house because that's the place where there's no curtains. That wasn't my choice. But where there's a window and I can like wake up and like I'm crazy and I sleep and I have a very, very strange relationship and just like wake up and see the sun. And Isabel, who, yeah, she has strong Aries in her chart. She's born with Mars and Aries. It's almost her birthday. She jumped up in the bed at 1:30, I don't know, and I woke up and there was Jove just like beaming bright, you know. So I thanked her and just like sat and prayed, thought about going outside. It was like, oh, that sounds windy and cold and cloudy. No, like I'm just going to be here. But then suddenly I was like, okay, when was the last time that happened? So I had heard 1963. So I got out the Astro Gold app on my phone and went to that year and just found the day that the sun was opposite Jupiter. And then I went online because I saw in the phone that was October 8th, 63. And I wanted to see what was happening on Earth in that day. And I mean, just remembering that it was November 22nd, 1963 when Kennedy was assassinated, right? Had me wondering, like, how did this look in John F. Kennedy's chart? And here's like this October 8th zone, by the way. Some interesting things going on here. Partial nuclear ban treaty. It's dope to hear. That was signed in August, went into effect in October, etc. There was some interesting, like, serious storms that like a lot of people died in, earthquakes, like a dam almost breaking, like some pretty interesting like weather events I had read about. And I mean, I just encourage you to check it out. Like that's one of the things that we do in astrology, right? It's like, oh, what was going down like last time this happened? What will go down next time? Okay. So I want to show you this even brighter Jupiter in its alignment with John F. Kennedy here. No, John F. Kennedy's birth time is like we're not sure, okay? But one thing that we see is that this Jupiter Sun, if that is his birth time, this 3 p.m. in Brookline, Massachusetts, May 29th, 1917 for John F. Kennedy, then this Jupiter Sun opposition, Sun Jupiter opposition is like really strongly configured to his ascendant, descendant, right? So the first house of me, the seventh house of the other. So relationship in general, our horizon speaks for. You can see that it's really well configured regardless of his birth time to Venus in his chart, who is like represents Kennedy, if Libra rising, child of Venus. So we say Venus is the steersman of the chart. She's in the 8th, interestingly, in this house system, Porphyry house system, but also in the 9th whole sign. I was interested in reading, like I came across this thing of like, when I searched John F. Kennedy, October 8th, 1963, I get like his whole like, I don't know, presidential agenda for the month. First of all, it seems like presidents back then were doing a lot more than they do now. I'm like, I don't know if that's true, but I'd say maybe kind of especially right now. It's like every day you're like, damn, this guy's meeting with everybody, right? So here's October 8th, which is this day. And, you know, just look through this. I'd encourage you to. Here's the URL, but you can get to it pretty quickly just by searching President Kennedy or JFK. October 8th, 1963, just like I did. One thing I was interested in seeing is that he, on the 12th, participated in Columbus Day ceremonies and then flew to Camp David, where he was actually, interesting, like not with his family, with his kids. And I was like, all right, what's up with the first lady was away? Like, okay. But like attending mass, right? So that was the thing that was like every weekend, according to these schedules as I'm reading them. And that's something about having the steersman of the chart in the ninth whole sign, right? Traditionally, we call the house of God, also foreign lands, which is significant for him too, right? So, yeah, just kind of digging into the truth that, okay, well, this assassination's looming. Is this alignment having something to do with that somehow? I'm also seeing that Saturn, who's here in the fourth house, was at the time transiting his fifth whole sign. And they lost a child in August, right? So this was Patrick Kennedy, who only lived a couple days. And this was around August, right? So August 7th birth, August 9th death. So there's obviously huge things happening. And I'm like, oh my God, imagine this for Jackie Kennedy, right? Or Jackie Onassis Kennedy, we should say. So let me bring in her chart. And one thing you may have noticed during this brightest Jupiter at the time, right? So Sun opposite Jupiter, Jupiter up here, Helion, all those things that we just discussed. Maybe you noticed, as I had, that Mars and Neptune were conjoined in that chart. So the strong Venus in Libra. There's a lot going on in Jackie O's 12th sign. I'm interested to see what type of profection she was in back then. And the answer is an 11th house year, a Mercury year, and just some other things that I wasn't technologically capable of getting into last night. It's always good to test some of these old and new techniques when there's significant things happening, like husband's assassination, death of a child, and the like. Yeah. Anyway, so check out Mars is right exactly on her south node. So this is like a really important truth in astrology, right? Like we might be tuning into this event, like even brighter Jupiter, right? Sun Jupiter opposition, like that's what brought us here. But we want to look at how in this like global event, it's going to speak to each individual, right? And so some of that's going to show up not only where do Sun and Jupiter show up in the chart. We have Jupiter transiting the fifth house, Aries Uranus, right? And the fifth is children. So ruled by Pisces, ruled by Jupiter, and Uranus can be very traumatic. So I see that more aligned with the death of the child, the descendant, right? Which would be husband, Taurus. So we look to Venus. Venus in her chart, like her husband's, like this is pretty cool synastry. Let's bring in JFK here. Oh, I'll just do that. Even though he's older, I usually put older folks on the inside, either way. Yeah, I mean, look at how close their Mercuries are to one another, right? And well, 12 years apart, there's something of them sharing the sign of their Venus star point, but a different cycle, and I could go on and on and on there, but I'm not going to right now. Anyway, there's something here with Venus in the 12th, which is a yearly event, right? But at this really strong event, there's something in kind of, I don't know, maybe hidden things in relating, okay? We also see Mars at the descent, at the south node, about to cross her ascendant. We see Pluto transiting her natal Mars. Pluto moves really slowly. So just looking at the sun, like there will be a conjunction, I believe, before Pluto stations retrograde, which won't happen until the sun's over in Capricorn or maybe even Aquarius later in early 1964. And obviously, I mean, with the death of this child, the coming death of her husband in such a brutal way. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the film, right? And check out like the North Node transiting her Pluto, where the nodes go, eclipses go, while Mars is transiting her nodal axis and her horizon. We do have a good birth time for Jackie O. And there's something here about the 11th and the 5th. That's not only kids, but passion and romance and risk. Okay, so the first lady was away. Like, where was that? And I was interesting to find this truth. So interesting way for this to come up to present it to you. But here is a dress from Jackie Kennedy's controversial vacation to Greece in October 63. What? So dress made with fabric purchased by Jackie Kennedy on her vacation to Greece. After the death of her son Patrick, Kennedy embarked on a 2-week vacation aboard a yacht owned by Greek shipping magnate Aristotle Onassis. Wait a second, I feel like Onassis and Jackie Kennedy, for some reason, those were, oh, right. This is the cat that she married after her husband's assassination. She went, I think, with her sisters, what I had read. There's some really cool pictures of Jackie O at like the Acropolis on that trip. And look, it's not like her husband was keeping it monogamous in their marriage at all. Like, I don't know how much you've looked into JFK's relational scandal. I was there last night when I couldn't sleep for a while. Actually, I was really interested in hearing about this controversial trip for the First Lady. Like, could you imagine? Things were a little bit freer then. JFK, you may know, like youngest president we've had, and you've probably heard about JFK and Marilyn Monroe, who, by the way, died, maybe murdered the year before. Mary Pinchot Meyer, who would die the year after. There's some really interesting tales there. But the reason why I bring this in is like, we can see in many regards, it's in places of like passion and romance. And also for JFK in the place of relationship. And, you know, I mean, look at Uranus right on the 5th in his chart. That speaks for many of these topics that have come in, right? That's being stimulated not only by Saturn at this really powerful time, but also by Jupiter and the sun. They're configured in different ways, more so to Venus, right? So, I mean, we could go on and on and on into these charts, and I likely will later, but I just wanted to bring in an example, I mean, a crazy, powerful example. And the other thing I would really encourage you to do is to look at some of the weather patterns then. Check out Mars opposite his Mars. So sometimes really significant astronomical happenings align. I mean, I could show you the eclipses around this time. He's in his nodal opposition. So something I've looked into deeply in regards of his coming assassination. That was just a month and a half after this time. But, as astrologers, we're so inclined towards tracking these cycles and trying to like look at what was it last time? What was it the time before, right? To understand a little bit more about what it can be now. I mean, I think not only what it will be now, I mean, that's a whole thing, and I'm fascinated by it, but like what it can be. And what I've seen is like, first of all, if it's strongly configured in your own chart, and for me, it's like 5th and 11th, and I'm going to be doing like a community. I've been doing so much community stuff. I'm in an 11th house or Aries year in annual profections. And so it's been like that OPA gathering, a Earth Astrology School. It's my school. I hope you'll check it out, GeminiBrett.com. We had a little retreat in Sedona. I went to the ESAR conference to speak and offer a workshop in August, and since then I've just been I can't believe I signed up for as many things I have been doing since I looked at the schedule and I got back and I was like, what are you, insane? What did you do to yourself? But it's been like that. So, but right now it's like in that place of like 5th of art and passion and romance and creativity, and the 11th of communities. Like that's a place where for me personally, because I have Gemini rising, this Libra Sun and Aries Jupiter align in my nativity. And so creating like beautiful Venus moving pictures for a coming community gathering, though sadly virtual, is part of the thing that I'm up to. But I also see in this an invitation of what I can do, and I'm looking at other planetary alignments as well. This obviously was a very powerful time for, Jackie Onassis Kennedy and John F. Kennedy. And I'm certainly not suggesting that that means because there was such a terrible event in November of 1963 when Jupiter was closest to the Earth last time, even closer than that same thing happens now at all. But powerful things happened. And and I'd encourage you to just go check out 1963, especially October and around 1963, and then look around right now and see if there's anything similar. And there's a whole thing about that November 1963 event that, well, might be a little bit different in the story that's being told than it actually was. And maybe there's something like that now too. But as soon as you start talking like that on YouTube, they don't let you talk on YouTube anymore. And so that being said, I guess that will be all. Thanks for spending some time with me here today, friends. I will see you